Hey everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video we're finally going to be roasting Representation, which in my opinion is the worst episode of the entire show so far. I had to rewatch this episode in order to plan out this video properly to make sure I hadn't missed anything, because I already had notes, but I just wanted to double check I hadn't missed anything. And the unparalleled anger I feel when I watch this episode. No. Whose idea was this episode? I don't agree. Anyway, please remember before we start the video that it's completely fine if you don't agree with me. You would be wrong in this case. But it's okay to be wrong sometimes, you know, because I do think the very existence of this episode is one of the worst writing decisions I have ever come across in my entire life. Right After June by Frank Herbert. That's an awful book. Anyway, I'm just gonna scooch to the side so we have room for some pictures, some tweets, and there's also gonna be some clips in this video as well to make my points absolutely clear, okay? So, first of all, let's talk about the good parts, because there are some tiny good parts in this episode, okay? When I say it's the worst, it's the bulk of it that's the worst. There are some good things about the episode. So the opening of it before the interpretive dance play thing that Kagami and Felix put on with, by the way, where did they get the props for this? The costumes? Did they rehearse this over a video call? When did they even decide to do this? How did that conversation go? I don't have answers to any of those questions, but anyway, the opening is fine. Plag is poking some processed cheese, even though we have some really good cheese here, so apparently none of the writers have ever been to England, so that's great. And then Felix arrives and mimics a scene from the 5th Harry Potter, which makes me want to throw up. Meanwhile, Marinette is going to the party and is like, no one's gonna notice me. Girly pop, you are the only one who got changed for this. Of course they're gonna notice you, and you also organised it. Like, why wouldn't they? What is wrong with you? And then here is where my first major problem lies. So Kagami reveals to the audience that she's told Felix who Ladybug is, which turns out we also find out revealed. She also found out in Perfection, which we didn't find out in Perfection, we find out now. Now, to give Kagami the benefit of the doubt, she's not entirely sure in Perfection in that moment that Marinette is Ladybug, but she's become certain of it over time. However, she has rehearsed this weird-ass play, so she therefore knows that Felix gave Shadow Daddy the Miraculous in Strike Back, which he has, so far anyway, not expressed any regrets in doing. How do you know, Kagami, that he's trustworthy just because you have feelings for him now? Like, she was full on glaring at him in episode 409, Daddy Agrest. Like, Kagami, be quiet. You know Ladybug's identity has to be kept a secret. Look what happened to you in Miracle Queen. And before anyone says, oh Hayes, you wouldn't say that about Nino telling Adrian his and Ali's identity in Rocketeer. Yes, I would, and yes, I already have. I constantly make jokes about how Nino is unable to keep a secret. I think as of filming this, the most recent time I made that joke was in the debunking the weird ass theory that Lila is Manon from the future, whatever it is. Like, I'm annoyed at both Nino and Kagami for doing this, okay? I'll make fun of both of them. Don't worry, okay? I know some people dislike Nino for it and not Kagami, or vice versa. I don't like that either of them did it. Okay? Let's all keep the same energy for both of them, because I know some of you don't, and you absolutely should, because I do, okay? I dislike them both for it. Anyway, Felix has then the audacity to say,
do you think she can be trusted?
Could you maybe look in the mirror and say that again? Please. So the whole crux of this episode is based on Kagami having found out in episode 12 Marinette's identity, and her telling Felix, who she doesn't know if he's trustworthy or not, just so they can reveal to Marinette the two of them is Senti and so is Adrian, and that Gabriel Babes is Monarch Daddy. Only for neither of them to show up in the finale to help her fight. So, Kagami, I get she couldn't physically leave, she couldn't get out of that room without outside help. Okay, I don't blame her for it. Kagami couldn't do anything. But what was Felix doing? Playing Minecraft? And I did see some comments of Thomas Astro defending his writing decisions, his poor writing decisions, saying stuff like, oh, well, Felix doesn't get involved in Senti Monster business, despite him telling us repeatedly in the past that if a Senti Monster is intended to be human upon creation, then they are a human. And it's not just once he said it multiple times. And that's secondly, that Ladybug needed to defeat Monarch Daddy in order for Felix to trust her, which is why he didn't come and help her fight. So Felix didn't trust her when he told her that he was Senti. He didn't trust her when he told her that his dad tried to kill him, that his dad ended up dying, that Adrian was also Senti, that his mum is also dead because of it, and that Kagami is also Senti, and who Monarch Daddy is. Felix didn't trust her, but was still able to tell her all of that, but also didn't help her take down the man who hates him, which in my opinion requires a lot less trust than all of those secrets he's just told her. So if Felix's thought process was truly, no, Ladybug needs to take down Gabriel on her own, despite I'm sure Felix would feel an immense feeling of satisfaction for helping to take down the man who did try to kill him back in season 4, but let's pretend he didn't care and let's use Thomas Astruc's weird logic, then why wasn't Felix getting involved in Sentimonster business, since he's apparently not a human, doesn't get involved in human business if he's a Sentimonster? So let's get involved in Sentimonster business and go and rescue your girlfriend and cousin who are both Senti. Now we all know that Peacock Miraculous holders can detect amux, hence why Felix reacts to Kagami's ring in emotion and Natalie to feast, and I'm sure this next season, since Adrian has his amok on him, Felix is going to realise that Cat Noir is also a Sentimonster and that he's Adrian. So while Felix wouldn't know where Adrian and Kagami were being held exactly, since Adrian doesn't have his amok on him, Kagami does. Couldn't he track it? Couldn't he like follow his senses or something like that? And if he can't, wouldn't he be frantic, wondering where they've gone? Like, he knew where Kagami was before, as we see at the start of the episode. He picks her up and then he drops her off back there at the end of the episode, and everyone is being turned into the Miraculized. If I were Felix and I saw this happening, which seems to happen even to his mum, I'd be like, oh my god, better go check on my girlfriend. And he doesn't? We're never shown it. The next time we see Felix is at the pool party. What was he doing? I don't particularly think Felix is, you know, the best person on this planet, but like, I feel like if he saw everyone getting turned into the Miraculized, he might get a bit worried about at least one person other than himself and maybe try and do something. He loves his mum, he seems to have pretty deep feelings for Kagami, he really likes his cousin, and he seems to like Marinette as well, so he was just gonna leave them all to it and be like, nah, you've all got this. Goodbye. It was literally the world against Ladybug and he was fine to just leave her to it. I thought he wanted Monarch Daddy defeated. If he wanted him defeated that badly, he should have been there helping her. So the weird play starts with the use of Once Upon a Time, which is the name of the projector, which is fine in of itself, but then they destroy it at the end of the episode, and we know they do because we see the feather right at the end when Marinette wakes up. Despite Felix crying on a rooftop at the end of Emotion after destroying Red Moon, and despite Felix giving Kagami a lecture in the sewers in Pretension about the value of Senti life. There are just so many things about this episode that don't fit with other things we were told in the season. So they finished the play, and yeah, I think the information given in it is fine, but I do know that a lot of people did get confused about who was who at certain points, and Kagami and Felix round it off by telling Marinette they just want to be free to love each other and they need Ladybug's help to take down Monarch Daddy so they can do that. So they told her all this information, not so she could defeat the man who's been terrorising the whole city for a year and finally save Paris, but so Kagami and Felix can date each other in peace. Now, while I definitely understand Felix's moral compass is definitely skewed, and I think it's believable he would ask for that, it's believable of his character, to me, even though I'm not her biggest fan, I do think Kagami is a good person. I don't know when exactly after Pretension that Felix told her that Gabriel Babes was Monarch Daddy, but why was she just sitting on this information? Why didn't she tell Marinette immediately if she knew Ladybug's identity? It's not in keeping with Kagami's morals. As we see, she's super against lying at the start of season 4. She doesn't like it to the point she gets akumatized over it. And she also doesn't like people keeping things from her, which is the cause of her Akuma imperfection. But she's okay keeping Monarch Daddy's identity a secret and allowing him to continue terrorising Paris for several weeks when she could have stopped it as soon as she knew. It just, to me, doesn't make sense with her character. Felix, yes, I believe that. Kagami, no, absolutely not. Another issue with representation is during the play, Marinette does indeed find out about Monarch Daddy's identity, which completely takes away the impact of her reaction in Confirmation. Her reaction in episode 25 is amazing, but it makes it seem as if she didn't know at all. Like, she had no inkling. It was like, oh my god, complete surprise! My boyfriend's dad is Hawk Daddy. It's almost as if representation didn't happen, but unfortunately it did, so it makes her reaction really, really unsatisfying. And if she already knew, why did she react like that anyway? And you know, just in general, her finding out by being told is just unsatisfying in of itself. Ladybug and Cat Noir at no point after Heroes Day really investigate who Hawk Daddy could be. There's no mystery around it. Even if we take representation out of the equation, let's just pretend it didn't happen, which is kind of what the show does anyway. Marinette only finds out who he is because she happens to be in the right place at the right time in Confirmation. It's so unsatisfying as a long-time viewer who has been waiting and waiting for her to figure it out, especially when she did have clues, like when she sees all the rings in Deflagration. But she does nothing with that information. She never even mentions it again. And I know a lot of people say, oh, maybe in representation, Marinette thought it was a dream since she does wake up in the art room. I do see where you're coming from, where she might think that. However, upon waking up, she goes to the window and says, "I'll help you." Why would she say, "I'll help you," if she thought it was a dream? She can't help dream versions of Kagami and Felix. But even further than that, it makes even less sense. She has all the information she needs now. She's been told who Monarch Daddy is and she already knows where he lives. And if I was Marinette, I'd be like, okay, as soon as I wake up, time to go and confront Adrian's dad and defeat him. Right now. But she doesn't. She goes home, gets changed, then transforms, purifies the Akuma, spends a whole day doing I don't know what, which we know for certain because she wakes up the next morning in Confirmation in her pyjamas, infected with her nightmare. I don't know why she didn't leave immediately once she knew Monarch Daddy's identity, and when she does wake up, she says this.
Chiki, I need to find out where Mr. Agress has sent Adrian. I need to free him. I mean, to talk to him.
That's her motivation in Confirmation. Not to go to the mansion because of what Felix and Kagami told her and to defeat the man she knows has been terrorizing Paris. Because of her nightmare about Adrian. That's the reason she goes. The events of representation aren't mentioned. Like I said before, it's like it never even happened. In conclusion, this whole episode is just a mess. The only purpose of this episode to me was that it was for Adrian to confront his dad, which while I did think they did it well in this episode, it would have had so much more impact in the finale if he'd been there to find out, which I'm still hoping he does at some point. I think what I would have liked to see is in like 25, 26, Felix did indeed try to rescue Adrian Kagami. He takes him to Paris just as Ladybug is defeating Monarch Daddy, and Adrian does indeed find out it's his dad, but it's too late. He's already doing the wish and floating up in the air with his mum. I would have absolutely loved that. And the other point of this episode was to confirm that Adrian, Felix and Kagami are senti monsters, which people are still in denial about. Look, bestie, if you don't believe it by now, especially after representation, you are clearly watching season 5, episode 24, Delusion. This episode is just an absolute mess and it doesn't require much thought to understand why, but the more you think about it, the worse it becomes, to be honest. I never want to watch it again. To me, this is the worst episode of the whole show so far, and there is nothing anyone can say or do to convince me otherwise. I'd love to know what you think. Did you like representation? Do you no longer like representation? I don't know. I'd love to know what you think, besties, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!